I was 32 years old and planning my wedding with Amanda, my girlfriend of 4 years. 6 months ago, I proposed at sunset on Santa Monica Pier. She cried happy tears when I knelt down with the ring. Everything seemed perfect as we planned our life together. But yesterday I saw strange text messages on her phone that made my heart sink. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my gut.
Trước khi tôi kể cho các bạn về cơn ác mộng mà tôi đã trải qua, hãy cho tôi biết các bạn đang xem từ đâu và nhấn subscribe để không bỏ lỡ những câu chuyện thật từ cuộc sống. Mỗi trải nghiệm đều có bài học riêng và câu chuyện của tôi có thể giúp bạn tránh những sai lầm tương tự. My name is Ellis and I work as a software engineer at a tech company in Los Angeles. I have always considered myself an open-minded person, but when it comes to relationships, I am quite traditional. I believe in honesty, commitment, and building a strong foundation before marriage. That is why I waited 4 years before proposing to Amanda. Amanda was an elementary school teacher with a vibrant personality that lit up every room she entered. With her blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and infectious laugh, she charmed everyone she met, including me. She had a close-knit group of friends, Jessica, Tina, and Lauren, who she had known since college. They were inseparable, and Amanda often referred to them as her lifeline. We met at a charity fundraiser for her school. I was there because my company was donating computers to underprivileged students. Amanda was organizing the event, and when she approached me to thank me for the donation, there was an instant connection. Her passion for teaching and her genuine care for her students captivated me. We talked for hours that night, and by the end of the evening I knew I wanted to see her again. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We shared many beautiful memories together. Our road trip to Big Sur, where we watched the sunset from cliff edges. The first time I introduced her to my parents during Thanksgiving dinner, and she charmed them with homemade apple pie using my grandmother's recipe. The weekend getaways to wine country, where we talked about our dreams and aspirations. It all felt right. After 3 years together, I knew she was the one. I planned the proposal for months, wanting it to be perfect. I chose Santa Monica Pier because it was where we had our third date. I arranged for a photographer to capture the moment when I got down on one knee and presented her with the diamond ring I had carefully selected. She cried tears of joy, saying yes, before I could even finish asking the question. Our friends and family who were hiding nearby emerged to celebrate with us. It was one of the happiest days of my life. We dove into wedding planning right away. Amanda had been dreaming about her wedding since she was a little girl, so she had most of the details already figured out. We chose a beautiful vineyard venue for the ceremony, selected elegant invitations with gold lettering, and spent weekends tasting cakes and sampling catering options. I tried on tuxedos while she went dress shopping with her friends. Everything was falling into place. But about 2 months ago, I began noticing subtle changes in Amanda's behavior. She started going out with her friends more frequently, coming home much later than usual. When she was with me, she was constantly checking her phone, smiling at text messages, but quickly hiding the screen when I came near. She became easily irritated over small things and would snap at me for no apparent reason. When I asked if everything was okay, she would blame it on wedding stress or problems at school. Amanda's friends, the Wild Roses as they called themselves, were an interesting group. Jessica was a marketing executive, always dressed impeccably and ready with sharp comments. Tina was a personal trainer with an intense personality that could be intimidating. Lauren worked in public relations and had a way with words that could make anyone feel special or completely insignificant depending on her mood. They had weekly gatherings they called Rose Night where no partners were allowed. They were fiercely loyal to each other and kept each other's secrets closely guarded. While I had always gotten along with them, I never felt fully accepted into their circle. I tried not to overthink Amanda's behavioral changes, chalking it up to pre-wedding jitters. I wanted to be an understanding partner, so I gave her space when she requested it and tried to alleviate her stress by taking on more wedding responsibilities. But deep down, I knew something was off. The woman I was about to marry seemed to be slipping away, and I did not know why. It happened on a Tuesday night. Amanda was in the shower, and her phone, which she usually kept close to her, was on the coffee table. A message notification appeared on the screen.
Normally, I would never check her phone, but the name that flashed caught my attention. Jake. I did not know any Jake in her circle of friends or colleagues. The phone was unlocked. I hesitated for a moment, feeling guilty about invading her privacy, but my growing suspicion pushed me forward. I opened the message thread, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to see you again tomorrow. Same hotel Jake had written. I scrolled up to see previous messages. There were hundreds of them dating back 4 months. Explicit descriptions of their encounters, plans for meetups when I would be working late, complaints about me and our relationship, jokes at my expense, and worst of all, discussions about their future together after Amanda would eventually leave me. My hands were shaking as I put down the phone exactly as I had found it. I felt physically ill, like someone had punched me in the stomach. The bathroom door was still closed, the shower still running. I had just minutes to compose myself before Amanda would emerge. I decided not to confront her immediately. I needed more information, more evidence. Part of me still desperately hoped there was some explanation, though I knew deep down what was happening. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own relationship. I paid attention to every detail, every excuse Amanda made to leave the house. I noted the times she claimed to be with her friends or working late. I even checked our shared credit card statements and found charges for restaurants I had never been to, with her hotel parking fees and lingerie purchases I had never seen her wear. Then came the night I followed her. She had told me she was having dinner with the girls, but I had overheard her earlier that day making different plans on the phone. I felt disgusted with myself for resorting to such measures, but I needed to know the truth. I watched from my car as she entered an upscale restaurant downtown. 20 minutes later, a tall, athletic man with dark hair arrived and joined her. Through the restaurant window I could see them. The way she touched his arm, leaned in close, laughed at his jokes. The intimate way they looked at each other was unmistakable. And then as they left the restaurant, they kissed passionately before getting into his car together. That image burned itself into my mind. My fiancée, the woman I thought I would spend my life with, in another man's arms. I was devastated, but still wanted irrefutable proof. I hired a private investigator, something I never imagined I would do. The cost was significant, but I needed to be absolutely certain before confronting Amanda. The PI followed them for 2 weeks and provided me with a detailed report along with photos and video evidence. Amanda had been seeing Jake, a personal trainer at a gym near her school, for over 4 months. They met 2 to 3 times a week, usually during lunch breaks or when Amanda told me she was with her friends. The affair had started just 2 months after our engagement. The psychological toll this took on me was immense. I could not sleep, spending nights staring at the ceiling, replaying memories and wondering what signs I had missed. I lost my appetite and dropped 15 pounds in just a few weeks. At work, I could not focus, making mistakes that caused my team leader to express concern. I felt like I was living in a fog, going through the motions of everyday life while carrying this heavy secret. I spent hours thinking about what to do next. We had already put deposits down on the venue, the caterer, the photographer. Our families had booked flights and hotel rooms. Announcements had been sent out. Backing out now would be messy and painful, but the alternative, marrying a woman who had been systematically betraying me, was unthinkable. I also wondered about the wild roses. Did they know? Had they been covering for her? Were they laughing behind my back all this time? The thought of being the only one not in on the secret made me feel even more humiliated. After 3 weeks of gathering evidence and mental preparation, I knew it was time to confront Amanda. I could not continue living this lie, and our wedding was approaching rapidly. I had to make a decision, and to do that I needed to hear what she had to say for herself. I spent an entire day organizing the evidence and preparing what I would say. I wanted to remain calm and dignified despite my inner turmoil. I chose a Saturday when we had no plans, giving us plenty of time to talk. I made sure all my important documents and valuables were secure just in case things went badly. Amanda was in a good mood that morning, talking about wedding flowers as she made coffee. The contrast between her cheerfulness and what I knew made me feel sick. I waited until she sat down with her cup before speaking. "We need to talk, Amanda. I know about Jake, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Her cup froze midway to her lips. For a moment, confusion crossed her face, quickly replaced by panic. Jake, what are you talking about? She attempted, but her voice wavered. I placed my phone on the table between us, showing a photo the PI had taken of them kissing outside the hotel. This Jake. The one you have been sleeping with for the past 4 months. The one you see when you tell me you are with your friends. Amanda's face went pale. She tried denial at first, claiming I was misinterpreting things, that Jake was just a friend helping her plan a surprise for me. But as I presented more evidence, text messages, hotel receipts, timeline of their meetings, her defenses crumbled. Fine, yes, I have been seeing Jake, she finally admitted, tears streaming down her face. But it does not mean anything. It is just physical. I love you, Ellis. You are the one I want to marry. Why? I asked simply. Why would you do this? Her explanation was a textbook deflection. According to Amanda, I had become distant, too focused on work. She felt neglected. Jake made her feel desired, appreciated. She claimed she was going to end it after the wedding, that it was just pre-marriage jitters. You are blaming me for your cheating, I asked, incredulous. I have been working extra hours to pay for our wedding and save for our future. The future you apparently did not take seriously. Amanda switched tactics, becoming tearful and repentant. She fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness. She promised to cut all contact with Jake, to go to couples therapy, to do whatever it took to save our relationship. She reminded me of all we had invested in the wedding, all the people who would be disappointed. I sat there watching her performance and felt nothing but emptiness. In that moment, I knew with absolute clarity what I needed to do. The wedding is off, Amanda. I cannot marry you knowing what you have done. Her pleading eyes hardened instantly. You cannot be serious. We can work through this. Everyone makes mistakes. Cheating for 4 months is not a mistake. It is a choice you made every day, multiple times a week. While planning our wedding, while looking me in the eye and telling me you loved me, Amanda's demeanor changed entirely. The tears dried up as anger took over. Do you know how many men would be thrilled to be with me? I made one error in judgment. You are throwing away everything over some stupid fling. It is not just the cheating, I explained calmly. It is the lying, the manipulation. I cannot trust you anymore, and without trust we have nothing. Her next words were venomous. You will regret this. No one walks away from me. I will make sure everyone knows what an unforgiving, cold person you are. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I could hear her on the phone immediately, likely calling her friends. I sat on the couch, emotionally drained, but strangely relieved. The worst was over. I had stood my ground. I packed a bag with essential items, planning to stay at a hotel until I could figure out more permanent arrangements. Our apartment was in both our names, but I knew I could not stay there. As I was preparing to leave, Amanda emerged from the bedroom, eyes red but expression hard. My friends think you are being unreasonable, she stated. They say if you really loved me, you would forgive me. Your friends did not watch their fiancé cheat for 4 months, I replied. I will be back tomorrow to get more of my things. Please be out of the apartment during that time. I left before she could respond. Driving to the hotel, I called my parents and closest friends to tell them the wedding was off. I kept the explanation brief, saying only that Amanda had been unfaithful and reconciliation was not possible. My parents were supportive, expressing concern for my well-being rather than disappointment about the canceled wedding. My best friend offered his spare bedroom if I needed a place to stay longer term. That night alone in the hotel room, I felt an odd mixture of devastation and liberation. The life I had planned was gone, but I had stood up for myself. I had refused to accept betrayal as the foundation of my marriage. Despite the pain, I knew I had made the right decision. The next day, I returned to the apartment at noon, hoping Amanda would be at brunch with friends as she usually was on Sundays. I used my key to enter quietly and was relieved to find the place empty. I gathered more clothes, important documents, and a few sentimental items. I was nearly finished when I heard the front door open. Instead of Amanda, 3 women walked in. Jessica, Tina, and Lauren, the Wild Roses, stood in my living room, arms crossed and eyes blazing. Jessica, the apparent leader, stepped forward. "We need to talk about what you are doing to Amanda," she said coldly. "There is nothing to discuss," I replied, continuing to pack my belongings. "I am sure Amanda has told you her version of events. The wedding is off. End of story." "She made a mistake," Lauren interjected. "One mistake in 4 years, and you are throwing everything away. Do you know how devastated she is?" I stopped and looked at them directly. "Did she tell you it was a 4-month affair, that she was seeing this guy multiple times a week, that they were discussing a future together? That is not a mistake. That is a deliberate choice she made again and again. Everyone deserves a second chance," Tina argued, stepping closer. "She loves you. She wants to make it right." "Did all of you know?" I asked suddenly. "Were you covering for her this whole time? All those girls' nights, when she was actually with him?" Their expressions gave away the truth before they could deny it. They had known probably from the beginning. They had helped her maintain the lie. "You should have minded your own business instead of spying on her," Jessica spat. "What kind of man hires a private investigator to follow his fiancée? The kind who noticed something was wrong and wanted the truth," I replied, zipping up my bag. "Now, if you will excuse me, I am leaving." As I moved toward the door, Jessica stepped in my way. "You are not going anywhere until you promise to talk to Amanda again. She deserves that much." "Move aside, Jessica. I have nothing more to say to any of you." Instead of moving, she shoved me backward. I was so surprised that I stumbled, dropping my bag. Before I could recover, Lauren was in my face, screaming about how I was breaking Amanda's heart. Then suddenly she slapped me hard across the face. The sting of the slap stunned me. I raised my hands defensively, backing away. "Stop this now. You need to leave." Tina, the personal trainer with impressive strength, drove her fist into my stomach. I doubled over, the wind knocked out of me. Another blow caught my eye, and I felt my lip split from a ring on someone's finger. I managed to grab my phone from my pocket and shouted, "I am calling the police if you do not leave right now." The threat did not deter them. Jessica grabbed my phone and threw it across the room. The three of them continued their assault, pushing, slapping, and punching while verbally berating me. I refused to hit back, using only defensive movements to protect myself. After what seemed like an eternity but was probably only a few minutes, I managed to break away, grab my phone and bag, and rush out the door. My lip was bleeding, my eye was swelling shut, and my ribs ached with every breath. I drove straight to the emergency room where doctors documented my injuries. A split lip requiring stitches, a black eye bruising on my torso and arms. The doctor asked what happened, and I told him the truth. He encouraged me to file a police report, explaining that domestic violence against men was more common than people realized and just as serious. From the hospital, I went directly to the police station. The officers took my statement and photographs of my injuries. I provided them with the names of my attackers and explained the circumstances leading up to the assault. I also mentioned the security cameras in the apartment hallway, which would have captured my hasty exit and injured state. The police were professional and took the matter seriously. They explained that they would review the security footage and interview all parties involved. A case number was assigned, and I was given information about obtaining a restraining order. Within hours of filing the report, my phone was flooded with messages and calls from Amanda. She alternated between pleading for me to drop the charges and threatening me with counter-accusations. She claimed her friends were just emotional and did not mean to hurt me. When I did not respond, she sent a final message. "You will be sorry for this. No one will believe a man who got beat up by 3 women anyway." But I was done being manipulated. I blocked her number and social media accounts and instructed my friends and family to do the same. I found a small apartment across town and hired movers to collect the rest of my belongings when Amanda was at work. The chapter of my life with her was over, and despite the painful ending, I knew I had made the right decision both in ending the engagement and in pressing charges against her friends. Some lines should never be crossed. Word about the assault and subsequent charges spread quickly through our social circles. Amanda and her friends launched a social media campaign against me, painting me as controlling and emotionally abusive. According to their posts, I had driven Amanda to seek comfort elsewhere, and her friends had only intervened when I became aggressive. It was a complete inversion of the truth. Some acquaintances and coworkers who only knew pieces of the story began to look at me differently. I received concerned messages asking if I was having problems or suggesting I seek anger management. It was surreal to be portrayed as the villain when I was the one who had been cheated on and physically attacked. The harassment escalated. I received anonymous threatening texts from different numbers, clearly from Amanda's wider circle of friends. Drop the charges if you know what is good for you. Men who hit women go to prison. Nobody will hire you after this gets out. Though I had never laid a hand on any of them, they were trying to flip the narrative. Amanda's parents, who had always been warm toward me, called one evening. Her father's voice was cold as he suggested, I should be a man and drop the charges against the girls. He implied that pursuing the case would only make me look weak and vindictive. When I calmly explained that I had been physically assaulted and had the medical records and security footage to prove it, he hung up on me. The pressure was immense and constant. There were moments when I questioned whether it was worth the emotional toll to continue. Maybe I should just walk away, move on, and try to forget the whole nightmare. The thought was tempting, especially on nights when I could not sleep, replaying the events and the betrayal over and over in my mind. It was during this dark period that I consulted with Sarah, a lawyer specializing in domestic violence cases. She listened to my story without judgment and reviewed the evidence I had collected. What happened to you was assault, plain and simple, she stated firmly. Gender does not matter. You have the right to press charges, and from what I can see, you have a strong case. Sarah explained that men often face skepticism when reporting physical abuse by women, but that the law was clear. She also warned me that the trial would be difficult, that Amanda and her friends would likely continue their smear campaign, and that I needed to be prepared for that. But consider this, she added. By standing your ground, you are not just fighting for yourself. You are showing other men who might be in similar situations that they do not have to suffer in silence. Her words resonated with me. I thought about how society often dismissed male victims of domestic violence, or worse, mocked them. How many men stayed in abusive relationships because they were ashamed to speak up or feared they would not be believed. I also connected with a support group for men who had experienced intimate partner violence. Hearing their stories, seeing the same patterns of manipulation and gaslighting that I had endured, strengthened my resolve. These men had found the courage to leave toxic relationships and seek justice despite societal pressure to man up and take the abuse. With newfound determination, I prepared for the legal battle ahead. I gathered all my evidence, worked closely with my lawyer, and steeled myself against the continued social backlash. This was no longer just about my personal situation. It was about standing up for what was right regardless of gender expectations or social pressure. The weeks leading up to the trial were tense. Amanda escalated her campaign against me, even giving an interview to a local blog where she tearfully described me as obsessively jealous and controlling. I maintained my silence, publicly advised by Sarah that the truth would come out in court, and it did. The day of the trial arrived with a courtroom, divided clearly between those supporting me and those standing with Amanda and her friends. I felt the weight of their stares as I took my place at the plaintiff's table, but I kept my eyes forward, focused on the task at hand. The evidence presented was overwhelming. Security footage clearly showed my hasty exit from the apartment, visibly injured. Medical records documented the extent of my injuries. Text messages from Amanda after the incident acknowledged that her friends had gone too far. The defense tried to argue that I had provoked the attack, but their story fell apart under cross-examination when they could not agree on what exactly I had supposedly done. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke clearly and honestly about the cheating, the confrontation, and the assault. I described how I had never threatened or touched any of the women, how I had only tried to leave the situation. The defense attorney attempted to paint me as jealous and vengeful, but I remained calm, sticking to the facts. The turning point came when Amanda took the stand. Under skillful questioning from Sarah, she contradicted her earlier statements multiple times. When presented with her own text messages, she stumbled, unable to explain why she had written about her friends going too far if I had been the aggressor. By the end of her testimony, her credibility was severely damaged. The judge's ruling was decisive. Jessica, Tina, and Lauren were found guilty of assault. They received sentences including fines, probation, and community service. Additionally, a restraining order was issued preventing them from contacting me or coming near my residence or workplace. While Amanda had not participated in the physical assault, the trial had exposed her affair and her lies, damaging her reputation in our community. Several mutual friends approached me afterward to apologize for believing her version of events. As I left the courthouse after the verdict, I did not feel the triumph or vindication I had expected. Instead, I felt a quiet sense of closure. Justice had been served, and I could finally begin to truly move forward. In the months following the trial, I focused on rebuilding my life. I accepted a job offer in Seattle, welcoming the chance for a fresh start in a new city. The physical distance helped me put the past behind me. I found a comfortable apartment with a view of Puget Sound and slowly began establishing new routines and making new friends. Therapy became an important part of my healing process. My therapist helped me work through the trauma of betrayal and physical assault, teaching me to recognize and process my emotions rather than suppressing them. I also adopted healthier habits, joining a hiking group and taking up cooking classes, activities that brought me genuine joy. Through this journey, I learned to recognize red flags that I had missed or ignored in my relationship with Amanda. The constant checking of her phone. The defensive reactions when I asked innocent questions. The gradual isolation from my friends. These were warning signs I would never overlook again. 6 months after moving, I reconnected with Sophia, a former college classmate who was also living in Seattle. Our friendship developed naturally based on mutual respect and honesty. We enjoyed hiking together and having deep conversations about books, philosophy, and our experiences. Unlike my relationship with Amanda, there was no game playing, no hidden agendas, just authentic connection. The most important lesson I learned through this ordeal was the value of self-respect. By standing up for myself, both in ending the engagement and in pursuing justice after the assault, I had reclaimed my power. I realized that walking away from toxicity is not weakness, but strength. That setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary for well-being. I no longer harbor anger toward Amanda or her friends. That emotion would only hold me back. Instead, I feel grateful for the lessons learned and the person I have become as a result. Sometimes the most painful experiences teach us the most valuable lessons. Today, I am at peace with my past and optimistic about my future. I know now that true happiness comes from living authentically and with integrity, regardless of what others might think or say. And that is a lesson worth every hardship it took to learn. What do you think is the most important thing to remember when faced with betrayal in a relationship? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when everyone was against you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if my story resonated with you. Your support helps this channel continue sharing real-life experiences that might help others navigate their own difficult situations. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your self-respect is always worth fighting for.